It just, like I said, an hour in this market is a day. This was very interesting, and this really wasn't picked up by the media that much, but it's my job to watch this stuff, and I actually enjoy it. But Mike Pompeo, who's a CIA director, who's President Trump's pick to run State Department, Secretary of State, he said under oath the other day, we've actually killed a couple hundred Russians with our warplanes in February. So there was a couple, let's just call it they were mercenaries. They were Russian. Let's just call them Blackwater. If you're familiar with the U.S. Blackwater Group, former U.S. Navy SEALs or Green Beret special operators that do civilian contracting, these special forces for Russia got killed in an airstrike. Couple hundred of these guys. So it's very kind of on the back burner. We kind of don't bring it up, and the Russians ain't bringing it up because that's a huge deal. So just to show you that things can go bump in the night, man, and something can blow up pretty quickly. This is another reason why I think Barack Hussein Obama was the Manchurian candidate. Conservative estimates put around maybe 1,500 to 2,000 soldiers, Marines, airmen, you name it, were killed by Iran since Operation Iraqi Freedom. Iranian special forces, their IEDs, they have killed probably about 50% of the Americans that have been killed in Iraq. Did you hear that in the liberal media under Obama? No. Instead, he flew pallets of cash over there and kissed their ass and let them restart their nuke program. So anyway, folks, a lot going on internationally. China expanding into the middle of the Pacific and putting radar jamming equipment on their islands. Brazil showing us a little bit about democracy as Lula turned himself in. But here in the States, folks, it really is. What an incredible week. The Mueller probe, they raided the president's attorney's office. The FBI did. It doesn't get any more FU back, Mr. President, than this. The attorney-client privilege is dead when this happens. So the guy's trying to, on the international stage, juggle what he's going to do with Syria while the FBI and Mueller is just going on a fishing expedition. Literally, under Clinton, the Kenneth Starr, the independent counsel under Clinton, started looking at the Whitewater deal and ended up with a stained dress. This guy, Mueller, started with collusion with Russia, which didn't happen, and now he's going about payments to a porn star. I thought we learned last time to avoid stuff like this. But anyway, folks, I got to be honest with you. I assumed, when the president says, hey, man, missiles are on their way, type of thing, or here they come, Russia, they're new, shiny, and awesome. I got long volatility this week, so I had to bail out of this weekly options trade for today, the VXX bull put spread. I put this on Monday in our weekly options brief. It looked good on Tuesday as volatility spiked, and then the rest of the week, vols come in. This really doesn't make sense, but you have to trade the market you have, not the market you want. We're going to talk about the financial earnings in a couple minutes here, but the VIX just slowly going down here as I think the market's starting to get used to a new normal, right? Yeah, we're on track for weekly gains, but we're kind of, this bounce off the 200-day moving average that we predicted is kind of running out of airspeed. And where's it running out of airspeed? Right there at this 50-day moving average. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. So people are starting to wake up to the fact that, yeah, we had a nice rally, but I got to be honest with you, maybe financial earnings, the net was too high. Right? If you can't hit the ball over the net, you lower the net. Well, I think Wall Street this time around, JP Morgan in the history of this company has never reported better earnings. Printed money. And mainly, Jamie Dimon said, because of what? The tax law. Look at the stock. Down 3%. This is why you don't trade earnings, folks. This is stupid. I predicted JP Morgan would have blowout earnings, and then I started to get around to the fact that what? I said, if they're not the most disgusting ever reported, the stock might sell off. This is why you don't trade earnings, folks. You could have predicted that JP Morgan was going to print money, have the best earnings they've ever had, which they did, and the stock went down. A perfect example about why I do not trade earnings, and if you do, you're gambling. There's a lot of sad people today, I know personally, who are like, wait a minute, man, I nailed it, and I'm losing money. Yep. That's why you don't do it. So we'll talk about this more on Monday. I need to sit here, go grab my mid-afternoon Starbucks and take a look into Wells Fargo, Citi, and JP, and actually look at the nuts and bolts of it. Also listen to the calls about the forward guidance. But it's really interesting market action based on these earnings. Blowout finance earnings, and then the market's just kind of walling around here. Oil. 3-year highs, and we might even see $100 a barrel, folks, if it really gets ugly in the Middle East. I got to keep an eye on an ExxonMobil bear call spread that we put on to leg into an iron condor. As I've told my members, iron condors are great until they're not. So this isn't a gap through one of our short strikes on a bear call spread. This is kind of a nice gentle climb schedule, which is almost worse. You want a gap, and then it kind of pulls back to half the gap. This is not as good, so I'm gonna wait till over the weekend. If we have a strike over the weekend, oil might spike and then be back down in line by Monday. But if this if ExxonMobil doesn't start raining any time soon, I need to get out of a bear call spread. The good news is we're in a long call diagonal on Jan 20 that should be starting to look pretty good. And we've also been trading some other front months in ExxonMobil. The tech wreck continues. The Zuckerberg testimony, I don't care what the liberal media tells you. That testimony was awful. The liberal financial media is singing from the rooftops about how he nailed it. Did they watch the same thing I did? Senator, great question. I'll have to get back to you or have my team get back to you. That was 50% of the dude's answers. And the fact that he couldn't even answer why 2 African-American women who are pro-Trump supporters have been banned from Facebook because they represent a safety to the community. Now, of course, now that it was on national TV and Diamond and Silk are probably going to get back on there, but this is very, very dangerous. I've had it with the limousine liberals. I've had it with all of them. Those stocks are going lower, and we sold a bear call spread the other day on Facebook. I think it's going to sink in to normal people who know that was not good. It was embarrassing. Some of the answers were just embarrassing. The dude had no idea what was going on. I get it. I get some of the old white men who don't even know what the internet is asking questions look stupid. But some of the smart guys, like a Ted Cruz, really put some rounds into the bullseye, and he just sat there like a deer in the headlights, which ain't good. So this is going to be interesting, guys. We kicked off earnings season with blowout earnings, and the market yawned. That isn't good. If we don't get through this 50-day moving average next week on strong earnings or some good news, put the serious stuff behind us, we might actually hit this 50 and head back down. We might actually retest this 200-day moving average. And I've talked like this in a while, guys. So I'm going to take the weekend, get on my calls, do my intel gathering, watch my Sunday shows, and see what's going on because there is a lot of headline risk in this market. And these rallies were pretty, back above the 50-day were pretty violent. This thing we're kind of climbing the stairs, and we're getting hypoxic here, and we shouldn't. I mean, we should be back all the way up here, but we're not. So not super worried, still a little cautiously bullish, but we might want to be putting some puts about a month out on the S&P 500 down here at maybe the 2,600 mark. So maybe some puts out on SPY out to 260 a month from now, okay? And we'll talk about this Monday in our weekly options brief at 1 o'clock. All right, folks, I got to run. Have a great rest of your day. Happy hunting. Make sure you hedge, and God bless. I'll see you for Monday's market outlook.